Hello, super viewers, and welcome. My name is Mo, and this is channel 150 on your Open View decoder, SupaTV powered by SuperBets. The name of the show is The Week That Was, and I'm doing it with the Daily Sun, and I'm joined by the one, the only, Amos Mananyetso, who's going to be going through the stories with me, checking out the highlights from the biggest articles to hit the papers. Amos, how are you?
I'm alright, how's it, Mo?
I'm good, Amos. We have a nice mix of stories this week. Rally Togolosi, Rally Marato, Rally Heartbreak. We even have brands that are being tarnished. Are you ready for today?
Yes, I am. It was a good week, I must say. I mean, depending on what you like, from politics to sports to celebrities, we had them all.
Eish, let's start on a lighter note. Let's start with Kataweri Tokoloshi. This is what was span. Usually we hear Tokoloshi Toshara what control. Marco spanning.
Yeah, this guy, my bro, he says this thing, it's serious for him because it only attacks him when he's at work. He says it strangles him, and we spoke to one of his colleagues who says, this guy has told him that there is a problem, in as far as his working conditions are concerned, and he can't see this thing, and it only comes when he's really busy at work. So it's an unfortunate situation like that. Whether it's something that only he sees and others don't see, but the fact of the matter is that he came forward to say, guys, I'm struggling and I've got this problem, and it only happens in as far as my working situation is concerned. So he thinks that this thing is trying to mess up his working situation, and he wants help.
Yeah.
You must remember more, because we are the people's paper. We are the only paper in this country that still does that kind of journalism, where we help our readers to get solutions to their problems. So they come to us to say, please help. How can I get rid of this thing on my shoulders? So yeah, obviously we spoke to some of our in-house gorillas and matuzus and so on and so forth. So they explained how this thing can be exercised. So we hope that they will get the help very soon, because we don't want anybody losing their jobs in this day and age.
All right, that's actually a good thing, because now if you know how to help, make sure you do get in touch with the Daily Sun and see how you can help this man. But let's move on to the next story. This one coming all the way down south in South Africa. We're talking about a story that involves love that has lasted over 50 years. When I read the story, I was so encouraged, because the advice they were on is very practical advice. But Ramos, tell us more about what happened with this lovely couple.
Man, that story melted our hearts all the way from Cape Town. Madala's name is Boy. Boy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
He and the Gogo have been in love for 50 years. They met a long time ago when the Gogo was only 16 years old. She says she was still in high school. And back then things were different. Unlike what happens today, when you just slide into the DM, as they say, the young ones. Back then, no share like that. They share the whole, So they had that kind of a relationship, and Madala was working in the mines.
Yeah.
So he would go home after 3-6 months or so. But what I like in the story, there's something very important that they say.
Yeah.
They say that when the issue of HIV became prevalent in the late 80s, early 90s, they had to sit down and talk as a couple and make a vow among themselves to say, you know what, we've come such a long way. We are not going to let this thing come between us. So whatever you do at work, up in the mines, in Gauteng and so, please take care of yourself. And Naninami, the Gogo says, while I'm down here, because they actually moved from Eastern Cape to Western Cape. Nami, while I'm here at home looking after the home and the kids, I will take care of myself to make sure that this thing doesn't come into our home. And so far, they survived that. So far, they are also surviving COVID. I mean, we've been in this thing for more than a year now. So it's really a story of hope, a story of love, a story of truth and honesty. And I hope that the young ones will learn quite a few lessons from this one.
What I found the most important about the story, I mean, if you go read it on the website or if you have a copy of the hard copy newspaper, you can go read it. And what I love most about it is that it covers, it documents almost like a history lesson, it documents this love from the moment they met to when Upoe bakasebenza emamayinini and how she decided to stay faithful and wait for him to come home. And then he managed to get enough money to take them to Cape Town, and they've been happy ever since. And looking back at their 50 years together, it's been a lovely marriage. So if you have the time, just make sure to visit Daily Sun's website and look for the story. It's one that you will read no matter how you feel. It will always make you feel good. Let's go to the next story. And this one is more on a darker note because this mom says, "Umntwana wami uyenza ama-drugs, so I don't know what to do anymore. So kamufasa muntlong kadi chain. Umfasa kadi ketana or askato ilo drugs." Amos, tell us more what happened in Khayelitsha.
You know, the first thing I said, or my reaction to this story when it was presented, was that we had a similar story last year, early last year, I think. Similar. Frustrated mom, Khayelitsha, drugs. She also used to chain this boy on his bed. And the reason why I was so concerned and you know, the story sent a shiver down my spine is that previous story or you know, last year, the boy ended up dying. Unfortunately. So, you know, you kind of feel like, oh, okay, deja vu moment type of thing. So, you know, it's the same thing. The previous mom came to us, please help me. This boy, I don't know what to do anymore. You know, he's stealing from my neighbors and wow. And so far, he ended up dying from an incident of mob justice because he had stolen again from neighbors, and unfortunately, so I just don't know what to say. We've obviously tried our best. We put the story out there. We spoke to all the relevant parties, SAPS, Western Cape government, social development, NGOs around. So we'll see how it goes. We hope that we'll be able to save his life this time around.
It's a heartbreaking story because now when you read it, I mean, the mom says, I got no choice. When I leave the house and he's alone in there, I have to take more fast. Otherwise, I know Rutlo drugs. She even went to an extent of moving to a whole other neighborhood. And this boy still leaves that neighborhood. Well, like Khayelitsha, the drugs. So at the end of the day, sometimes, guys, as a community, we need to intervene and say, if Mama thing goes to the extremes, or for someone like a chain, we must also, as a community, find our way into that home and try to talk to this child and try to get him out of those drugs. But let's go back onto a lighter note. One A trend leader, you said something earlier on the show, sliding into the DMs, and we've seen this week that sliding into the DMs can find you. So look at TikTok, no, read that video ka wena ntsora. Ngwanak. Ngwanak o itwa por. Bramos, what went down?
Hey man, you know, the men of cloth have really taken a different sort of disguise in the last 10, 15 years, to be honest, because these are not the men of God that we knew growing up and probably many other years before we were even born. All you hear about these days, in as far as Baruti are concerned, is just, you know, chicanery.
Yeah.
It's just fraud. It's abuse. It's them misusing their titles, you know, in the name of the Lord, basically, to rape and plunder. You know, I'm sorry to go strong, but we've seen so many, you know, and in this case, you can almost deduce from the story and everything else, the material that is before us, that same modus operandi. You know, these guys, people give them all their trusts. They put everything in their hands. Their vulnerabilities, they tell them everything. You know, they pour their hearts out to these people who purport to be the maid of cloth. And then what do they do in return? Instead of helping, instead of being the guiding light, instead of being the shoulder to cry on, instead of being barumuwa ba modimo who come on earth to soothe those who need help and salvation and all of those, they take advantage of them. So you can see where this is going, and the reason that the so-called bishop sort of resigned from his position at the television station within 30 minutes of the story having broken tells you something. It says a lot about what he knows and what he understands and what his guilt says to him. So I think our people need to start thinking differently about how they relate to these churches and to these individual barutis who are really here not to soothe and to give salvation, but to plunder and abuse.
But you know what's key about this whole thing is that now you drag down the whole industry with you, because now we start thinking that it's normal more congregation, because we also covered a story not so long ago, me and you and now we're looking at a whole situation where now this was digitally captured in a voice note or was it a call or whatever it was, and I see he was trying to speak in code. He wasn't trying to say straightforward or king into a batlang, even though I read in the same article he said that no, can you copy the key? And we were saying, but the keys are in fact. Because the key are the imagine what's the key, John. But yeah, people are now saying that no, he's saying the key, what's that excuse? But I do respect the fact that he stepped down because he knew that people were not going to let this one lie, and he did the bigger thing. But let's move on to the next story, because this one is quite a shocking one. Now, if I told you an inmate was pregnant at this moment in time, and the cause of this pregnancy was a law official, you wouldn't quite believe me, but that's exactly what happened in the story.
The story is from Northwest, between Mahikeng and I think Klerksdorp.
Yeah, Klerksdorp.
So this lady was arrested for a case of murder in 2017 thereabout. And then she was awaiting trial, you know how it goes, up and down, owned, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point, one of the police officials, when the lady was now kept at a police station called Stelfontein, I think, in Klerksdorp, so that she could be closer to the magistrate's court where she was appearing. The man you know, and then book this lady out of the cell, and then say in an adjacent room. Obviously, I think, you know, I mean, if you given the power dynamics, relationship between a policeman and an awaiting trial prisoner, you can't even talk about consensual sex. So I think the best way to describe it is that he coerced her into having sex with her, because if you read her statement, which we saw, she says this guy asked him or her for sex. She refused at first, and then this guy said to him, or made a promise to her that, no, look, I will buy you whatever you want, things. I mean, small things like bubble gum, Coke, sanitary pads, blah, blah. Because this woman was waiting for some cosmetic products from her sister, and it was going to be her menstrual periods very soon. So, which is it's a depressing story, to be honest, you know, because how do you have a police official taking advantage of someone in this vulnerable situation? So the long of it is that they had sex, you know, let's call it sex at this point, until, you know, the court of law has decided what is it exactly at the end of this process. They had sex, a condom burst, and this woman is now pregnant. On top of being pregnant, she has since, obviously, time has now lapsed in as far as a made-up case is concerned, she has been incarcerated. She was sentenced to 15 years or so, I think, for that murder. So it's a mess.
It's a big
She's in
mess.
prison, baby, and this policeman has not been suspended. Nothing has happened to him. So we hope that after shining the spotlight on this story, the SAPS will jump out of their comfortable couches and do something to give this poor woman justice.
Yeah, they need to do the right thing. And it's one thing that we've always complaining about as the public, that we pay all these taxes and the police are not doing the right thing. I hope in this case that they do justice by this unborn child. But let's move on to the next story. It says, when I read this, I was quite shocked. It says, top actor begs for work. And if I'm not mistaken, he went on Facebook to go say, guys, get the last time Spani was all the way back before COVID, last year, can I please have an acting job? And he does also recognize that COVID, they just turned the industry upside down. Ramos, tell us more about what's going on in this story.
Yeah, man. Story sometimes is very sad because I think it's a microcosm of what's happening in the arts industry.
Yeah.
It has been happening long before COVID, but obviously the situation here, COVID, has just amplified their situation and their plight. And then on the other hand, you've got National Arts Council doing funny things, big monies that cannot be accounted for. You cannot have a situation where such a talented actor goes to these lengths. I mean, the desperation is just too much for him to go out there and do this. Ordinarily, production houses should be fighting over him, should be coming to him and saying, can we, here's an offer, this and that, and then he must weigh
his options.
What he has and says, which direction should I go? So I think we should look at this story deeper than just him going on social media and saying, can I please have a job? The bigger issue here is that our arts industry in this country is a mess. We need to overhaul everything. People must be accountable. Things must be done according to the book. So, I mean, really, arts is as important as engineering. If we don't have artists to entertain us, to give us the other side of life, then everybody else is just going to be depressed at the end of the day. Let's be honest.
And it's a big thing because now someone with a CV like his, I mean, he's been acting for a very long time in a whole bunch of other dramas. But it looks like it's an industry-wide problem because some of our best talents are not working at this moment in time, especially out about acting in particular. I understand there's other industries in the arts, but when you look at acting in particular, some of our best talents are not even on the screen because the jobs are few and people are not getting paid enough and it's a lot of things. For him to have gone on Facebook and said, production houses are available, it shows just how bad it is in our acting and in our drama industry. But let's move on to the next one. And this story is one that takes the wind out of my sails. I mean, when you look at what happened to AKA recently, and now for this to have now been the case, I mean, a video was leaked of him breaking down a door and then basically looking like he's going to insult his now passed on fiance. But tell us more about what this story was all about.
Yeah, look, I think what has been happening since Sunday is like a tsunami of information coming out of that relationship, which, given what we've seen so far and what we've heard up to this stage, looks like it was a toxic relationship. And obviously you and I cannot judge. There's no formula, to these things because it's all about affection and affliction. It's matters of the heart. But yeah, it looks like maybe things might have been rushed because the evidence so far that has been presented to the public by both sides of the coin, so to speak, show that things were hectic. And the story is not done yet. It's been rumbling. Like I say, it's a rolling stone. It's a moving target. Today, we published a story ourselves at Daily Sun that says AKA has pulled out of the Africa Day concert, which is a major major event, by the way, in terms of the performing arts calendar,
Yeah.
not South Africa, but continentally, because it's a continental gig. He says he wants to reflect and have a moment to himself, to mourn, blah, blah, blah. So, obviously, had these stories not, come out from Sunday, I don't think we would have seen this announcement from his camp. So yeah, and I believe that we're still going to see a lot more between now and probably, I don't know when, but there's still more coming without me being prejudicing anyone.
Yeah, no, it's a big story because now when you look at it, I mean, looking at the events that have transpired in his personal life just recently, I mean, he also had to drop the Joburg or Hawaii Day with Joburg with 947. He had to drop that and say that for the first time since he's been on the lineup, I mean, they say it's been at least 6 years of this man being on the lineup. He had to say, guys, it's a Joburg Day this year because I need to go reflect on everything that's going on. I mean, it shows just how social media affects people in the personal space, because for a video like that to be leaked and people to be judging you on it and it's going viral, now it's on TikTok, now it's on Twitter, and you're dealing with the death of your fiance on top of that. I mean, you still haven't really gotten over that, and now it's coming to haunt you in the form of social media, and people are saying, you did this and you did that, and he's still coming out to say things like, no, our relationship was not perfect, but whose relationship is perfect? I mean, he's a young man going through a lot right now. But let's move on to the You Speak, because this is the last story that we want to be sharing with you today, because we don't have the digital bones. But the You Speak is, I'm going to read it for you. It says, old men were at the center of the debates in the letters page this week, with the reader asking why Judge Mogoeng left after Ace Magashula got suspended. Along with that, people wanted to know badly, SAFA has been dominated by people who should be in an old age home. So people are just saying, Mara, the way at old age, the public institution, body SAFA, body court housing, all these things. Why is it such a big topic, Ramos?
It's a big topic for many reasons, especially in politics. And when I say politics, I don't only refer to political parties or parliament or government, to institutions like SAFA and other public institutions where you've got office bearers and so on and so forth. We've got a lot of young people in this country who are well educated, who've got ideas, who were born in this new dispensation, who probably understand their fellow youth better, and who probably have better ideas to take the country forward, since 1994. However, you still have a whole lot of magogos and madalas who are holding on to these positions of power and not sort of giving the young ones an opportunity to be part of the discussions, to be part of the policy making, and that is dragging us backwards more, because you cannot have a situation where a 70-year-old is making policies that are supposed to solve the 21st century problems. And that is why there's a lot of sort of disjunction within our public space, because that, like, for instance, this reader is complaining about the people at SAFA. The people at SAFA still understands a football player from a pre-1994 era.
Yeah. I understand.
Or even unification era, when there was the colored league, the black league, the white league, the this and that and the other, where South Africa was not allowed to play internationally and so on and so forth. But somebody who was born after 1994, who went to school and did sports science, they've got a different understanding. And they might actually give us the solutions as to how South Africa can actually be a world beater in football. So these are important topics that we need to debate without shying away from them, without putting emotions, and just be frank about them.
All right, thank you, Amos, for joining me. Now, before we go on and end the show, I just wanted to say it's very important to recognize that a little bit of balance between young and old can bring us a long way as a country. I mean, we don't need to get these people out of the institutions. They still have a lot of wisdom they can share with young people. But you need to open up the door and open up the dialogues to say that young people, here's the older people with the experience, with the history, and they could teach you with your flair, your creativity, how to build a better South Africa. Because some things are not written in textbooks, they're written in a mind. And if you don't sit down with that mind and be able to absorb all that knowledge, you won't be able to run a better South Africa. But Amos, thank you again for joining me this week. Where can people find you on the socials?
Facebook, Amos Mananyetso, Instagram and Twitter @Mezosti.
All right, no, Amos. No, that is the end of the show today, but you can join us again next week, Friday, from 5 p.m. as we cover the biggest stories to hit the newspapers from Monday to Friday. Thank you for joining me. My name is Mo, and I will see you again next time.